The second is the new initiatives to ensure the long-term financial stability of the service, and the third provides an update about service transformation. With regard to income generation and commissioning, in the February report, we noted that no one stream of income generation could bring in sufficient revenue to guarantee the future of the library service. A mixed portfolio approach, likely to generate more income and carry less risk, was essential, and that actually has proved to be the case. Areas of particular note, just to mention, are first room and facility lettings. And libraries are continuing to work very hard to promote the lettings offer, and despite being unable to recruit to the business development post in the first half of the year. But we're now recruiting to that post again, and we're planning to have someone in post by December, and this income stream will be a key priority for that post. The charging for computer access was introduced on the 1st of May 2018, and that meant a charge of £1 per hour was made after the first 30 minutes that were free to all users. Children up to the age of 18 and people on benefits or who are unemployed continue to be exempt and use the computers free of charge. In the first 3 months between the 1st of May and the end of July, libraries saw a drop in computer hours in use from 40,909 hours to 18,937, a drop of 50%. The actual drop is very close to that predicted, which was 50%. So I'll just go back. The actual drop is 53.71%, and that actual drop is very close to that predicted, which was 50%. But the low income forecast for the year, currently 16,000, reflects the high number of people using the computers that are exempt from the charges. And thus, this does mean that the service is being used by those who most need it. Commissioning has been very successful in generating additional income for the library service this year. And the service is working with the Commissioning Directorate to launch a Safe and Well service, which we've actually launched on the 1st of September. And that provides bespoke information to vulnerable adults on a one-to-one basis to help people remain independent in their own homes for longer. And that commission is bringing an income of £50,000 to the library service. And then the Falling in Love with Reading course, commissioned by Skills and Learning from the library service in 2018-19 and 2019-20. And then there's further IT and learning courses currently under development with our colleagues in Skills and Learning. By the end of March 2019, this will generate additional funding of more than 21,000. A pipeline of ideas is also being developed to increase the number of income generation initiatives in libraries. New initiatives include the Doctor Book Scheme for books in the Local Studies Library at Cambridge Central Library, Cambridgeshire Collection Guided Tours in partnership with the Tourist Information Centre, and now Cambridgeshire Libraries is working with the Head of Mental Health for Cambridgeshire County Council and Peterborough City Council to win commissions to support the suicide prevention strategy by increasing the number of people with lived experience of mental health problems back into employment and or volunteering, or with help in setting up their own business. So in conclusion, the library service is confident that the improvements set out in this report are providing a firm foundation on which the library service will continue to change and innovate over the next 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, questions?
Thank you very much, Chairman. Yes, there was one particular question I've got with regard to the mobile libraries, because I know how important they are, particularly for residents in my division. You state a wider range of services that can be available in those mobile libraries. I wonder if you could just expand on that, please.
So we've already won commissions from our health partners to conduct things like blood pressure checks in the mobile libraries on certain sites, and that was very much a kind of proof of concept, and they liked us and we liked them, so we're going to do a lot more of that health prevention work being commissioned by our health colleagues around blood pressure checks, we're hoping diabetes checks and weight checks and things like that, general health things. And that's been one of the things we've been doing. Then the other thing we've been also engaged with our health colleagues is talking about how we can start using the mobile library service, because it visits over 300 communities, I agree with you, very much isolated, It's also starting to sell aids for people, you know, the things that you unscrew jars with and things like that, because often in these places there's nowhere to go and buy them, and often, and I don't mean to make any assumptions about this, but often people are not using the internet to order stuff online. So the idea is that the mobiles will start selling those in the next 3 months, those sorts of products to make life easier. And there are lots of ongoing conversations, because the brilliant thing that's happened with all of your help and support is people have been talking about libraries. More and more colleagues have been coming towards us, talking to us, saying, can we talk to you about this or that? So all those conversations are very much ongoing, but the health colleagues have been very supportive.
Councillor Grant.
Thank you. Chairman, are you simply taking questions at this stage, or are you taking other contributions? You specifically asked for questions.
Yes, I'm taking questions.
Just questions.
Yes.
Right, okay. My question then, and I would like to propose an additional recommendation later on, but my question is 4.4 and the reference to the philanthropic organisation called Civic. The note here is that there's a new and significant opportunity that has come, but I was struggling to see in the report what sort of opportunity that might be, and having visited Civic website, I have to say I struggled even more. I have no idea, even after reading that, what they do, what it's all about.
My apologies, I thought I had turned this off.
Or what the opportunity might be. The website looked like a buzzword bingo card. It just meant absolutely nothing. And I'd be really grateful to have more information about what is actually being referred to here and what difference it might make to libraries in Cambridge.
So if I just talk a little bit about that, I was approached by William Seacott, who set the library task force up initially, because he was asked by government ministers to really reinvigorate English libraries. So William Seacott approached Cambridgeshire Library Service, working with Cathy Settle, who was also the chief executive at the time of the library's task force. By sheer serendipity, I was on secondment to the library's task force a couple of years ago and got to know people very well behind the scenes. And because of all of that, finally we had people like William Seacott and Cathy Settle coming to Cambridgeshire saying, and basically William Seacott is the mover and shaker behind Civic. And what that really is about is saying we really like the work we're doing in Cambridgeshire. We really see that as potentially demonstrating an exemplar library service to the rest of the country because of all the different things we're doing. But the other side of that is they are able to bring in additional funding through some very powerful trusts that are not public at all, who are wanting to support the public library service in this country. So what we're seeing is inward investment, and those conversations are underway. We have £50,000 on the table straight away, and the offer of people to help and support us, but also further down the line, further additional income coming in to support the service.
So they're essentially a sort of private funding channel.
I suppose that's one way of describing them. I mean, basically they are philanthropic supporters who work in the public sector, wanting to support the public sector, and some of the work they do is in art galleries, some of it's museums, but because of the and there's a personal relationship between William Seacott and the founder of the trust, really wanting to support English libraries, and they've chosen Cambridgeshire as somebody that they would like and want to work with us, so we will be an exemplar really for the rest of England.
Good, thank you. Councillor Carpen.
Actually, the question I was going to ask has been covered, so I'll pass on that. Thanks.
Councillor Hunt.
Thank you. I just really wanted to be comfortable in the fact that the staff exercise some flexibility when it's the use of the sort of the computers in the library, because I can see that our goals are correct and everything's good, but I can just imagine lots of situations where somebody has a good reason to use it for some inquiring about an apprenticeship or something with a commercial operation, and we would just like to make sure that the supervisors there have got this committee's confidence to do it. I'd also like to make a comment about SOAM, which I have, which I represent, and Neighbourhood Cares are in there, and it's a very good example of using the library for something else as well. Has this resulted in any extended opening hours of the library? That was one question. And the other question I had was, I'm delighted to see that the mobile libraries, you're extending the operations, and we had spoken, if you remember, about Charlottebus and things like that, and the whole things. But are we also being keen to make sure that where we do supply extra services, at all times we're being commercial?
Yes, I originally started working in the private sector, so I'm very clear about cost and price and having a fair price for a fair service. So
Good.
Please be reassured.
And what about the opening hours of the Sohn Library?
So if I talk about the opening hours at Sohn, when we've talked to, in the groups that we've had in Sohn from the community, we've talked to, they are wanting us to look at the opening hours in Sohn, so we will do a survey in the wider community to ask people about opening hours. But the other thing we are wanting to explore in Sohn is to include adding in some new technology, which means that the library will be able to be open automatically.
I understand the technology. I'm just concerned that where we've got people from another organisation like Neighbourhood Cares who are on site can open, and responsible people, they can open and shut. So it seems to be something that could be introduced really quite quickly to say, well, if Neighbourhood Cares are there, you don't have to ask the people of Sohn if they want extended hours. If there's responsible staff on site, well, then it can be offered. Said, as of so-and-so, we're now going to stay open until whenever, because if you provide a service, hopefully more people will come. And if there's people on site anyway, why not keep it open?
I'm more than happy to explore that with Neighbourhood Cares and see how we can do something.
But yes, but wherever this sort of thing happens,
yes.
Because I think Neighbourhood Cares is going to expand.
Yes.
And therefore the opportunities are going to expand as well.
Just can I go back to your first point that you made about being confident that the staff in the branches are able to have the discretion to make sure that people are able to use the computers if they're job hunting or looking for apprenticeships?
Or whatever.
The staff in the branches have been given that authorisation. They don't have to report to a senior manager. They're absolutely at their discretion on the ground, because you're right, they know their customers better than I do.
Yeah, we're a service for the community and should be stopped like that.
Yeah, so they have the discretion to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think Lucy was next.
I'll go off.
Thank you, Chairman. And linking on from something that Councillor Hunt said, I'm obviously concerned that there is quite a large proportion of people who've stopped using the computers in the library. And I have heard some personal versions of the type of person who might be in that dropout section. But I'd like to hear from officers, please, who you think it is who now doesn't use that service, what those lost hours of use represent.
Anecdotally, I think it's people using the computers for things like Facebook, and watching films and television and things like that, not television, more films, and looking at various recreational purposes of the computers. So anecdotally, when I've been talking to the staff, and I've been talking to staff, I go around the libraries regularly, talk to staff, that's where they've seen the stop, if you like, it's on the social media aspects, it's on the entertainment side of things, along those lines.
May I just come back to you?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. That's what I've heard as well, but I suppose my concern is the impact that might have on some people who, what are they doing instead? What impact does that have on isolation? That would be my concern. And I'm not sure how we investigate that, but I think that for me is a concern. I feel that in the 21st century, any use of the computer, people familiarising themselves with the digital world is good. And if they are only using it for social media or whatever, I still don't think that's a bad thing, and I do just have a concern about what it means to people in terms of them finding alternative outlets for social interaction.
Thank you. My point follows on very well indeed from Linda's, and I absolutely agree with her concerns about the potential for people who are now not using the internet and what that means that they're not able to do what they were doing in the past. And I absolutely agree that I think for some people social media is a really important part of their lives, and that allows them to remain in touch with their families and all sorts of things. So my question is, do you have records now of what percentage of the time the computers in the libraries are being used and how much of the time they're sitting idle as a result of the very significant drop in the number of people using it?
I'm just going to check my figures. I'm not sure if I have that to hand. If I don't, I'll be able to find that. I'll let you know what the figures. Thank you, yes.
It's unfortunate you haven't been able to recruit a business development officer. And it's good that you're going to be interviewing again. But I was just thinking to myself, it must be hugely difficult to get someone, because I was imagining the interview situation, you would be saying to potential candidates, well, what ideas have you got for increasing the revenue streams for the library service? And looking at all these initiatives here and so on, I think it must be pretty hard to think of anything new and different. Have we got to the point where all the ideas that are out there for using the libraries to generate income have been tried, or are there some out there that are being tried across the country that we haven't had the opportunity to implement?
I think there have been an awful lot of ideas, both generated within Cambridgeshire and nationally, and of course we're tracking that. I think it's less about the ideas and more about the capacity in the service at the moment. So we need somebody really to lead on it and to make it their role and their job to pursue it. Obviously, Sue and her team, you know, it's a job for everybody in the service, and they take that very seriously. But we haven't got a dedicated person. And you know, building those relationships with potential sponsors and things like that, that all takes time and capacity, which we just don't have in the service at the moment.
Well, hopefully you'll get the right person soon.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit. I mean, I'd just like to say that, you know, since my involvement with libraries, which I've always found sort of mildly amusing, seeing as I'm profoundly dyslexic, and I've never used or been in a library in my youth at all, I've been absolutely fascinated and really impressed with the dedication, particularly of the staff, and all those people connected with libraries. I think it's absolutely fantastic, the work that's being done. The fact that these ideas are coming forward is remarkable, because I seem to remember in the past that the attitude used to be, well, libraries, you know, I wonder if we can keep them open, and they'll probably have to go in the future. That's not the attitude now at all. It's completely the reverse, which is really exciting, and we're exploring every way we can to make libraries a really important hub for the community to provide a range of other services other than books. But by doing that, it drives people hopefully into reading and books and all that brings. So I think it's been a real success story. I'm obviously concerned about the income not being quite what we'd hoped for. But at the end of the day, we've just got to keep trying, keep looking for ideas. Hopefully this thing with Civic will come forward with some great ideas. And I'm hearing from other people, other art organisations and things of that sort, that they're looking potentially to use our libraries to bring art and drama and all those things to a wider community. So, you know, I think it's a real success story, and I think we've just got to absolutely make sure that we secure the financial futures of our libraries, because we don't want those pressures to derail us in any way. And hopefully that will happen. So I think on balance, it's good progress. There are some areas which you know, clearly we do better, and hopefully we will. But I think the recommendations are excellent. So Happy to get this forward. Councillor.
Thank you, Chairman. I said I would like to move an additional recommendation. I just want to say I think that I've been very impressed with some of the things that have been done. I watched the video before it was here today. I watched that because it was a link, I think, in the library's email that came out, and I watched that out. And I thought that was a good initiative as well. I received the booklet recently, as other members would have done, of the events in libraries, and I thought that that looked absolutely excellent. So really, really impressed with that. But looking at section 3.16 on the income projections and year-end forecasts, it is clear that there are a couple of lines in that have radically exceeded the expectation for them. Oh, goodness.
I have to.
You're in high demand, Councillor. And that's good to see. It appears that there's going to be a lot more income projected from the library extra scheme, for example, and significantly more from donations than was projected, and that is good. Councillor Kavanagh was asking about new things to do. There's also the potential to do more of the existing, I think, as well. But looking at those two lines, the variance is over £22,000, which is more than the total income for the year that is projected to be raised from charging for computer use. And it seems to me that seeing computer use drop by more than 50%, merely to raise £16,000 out of a projected £108,000 of that line, is a false economy. And I would much rather personally see the effort go into expanding the library extra scheme, expanding the opportunity for donations and working on those more, and looking at other options. And I would therefore like to move a recommendation that says, in the light of the projected income from charging for computer access, we cease that charge on the grounds that it is simply raising nowhere near the amount of money that was projected for it, and the cost in terms of seeing computer use drop and computer use rationed, and all the issues about potentially isolation that Councillor Harford mentioned and Councillor Netsing supported. That doesn't seem to me to be a sensible way to proceed, and I would therefore like to move the recommendation that the charge for computer access cease.
So your wording would be just that?
Yes.
And you have a second? Okay, thank you. Members, would you like to debate that motion? Or that change?
Well, enter into an area where angels fear to tread. I'm not a great fan of libraries, I have to say. I feel them very outdated technology, simple as that. And I make no apologies for that view. There are many others who share that view. However, we are where we are, and our official position as a Conservative group is to maintain the libraries, which I think we have done a very good job of doing. And I think that for me, the important thing about these usage figures is that it's all very well to have people on computers all day, every day. But are we really reaching the people that we should be? And I think that by restricting the usage to people who really do need those free access is actually a really positive thing that libraries are doing. You know, I think one of my arguments against libraries in general is that they're a valued resource for the elderly middle classes. And I think that the more we can do, so where angels fear to tread, but I do think that one of the things we are doing positively is we're actually encouraging more usage by the very people who need the libraries most, who just don't have the money to pay for the usage charges. And so it is rationing the free usage of computers, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. So that's my opinion.
Councillor Hart.
Thank you, Chairman. So this is a really difficult one for me because having said what I said about my concerns, the logical next step would be to go down the route that Councillor Dupre's trying to go down. I listened really carefully to what Councillor King said, and one thing he said is, are we reaching the people we really need to? And I would say in answer to that, we don't know. And so I go back to what I said when I spoke originally, which is, I would really like to understand what is happening to the people who are not being able to use the computers in the libraries at the moment. I do want to say at this point that I have the greatest admiration for the officers in the library service and the staff, because I do think that singularly in this council, they have shown the way forward in transforming. I think progress is slow and painful, but that they are leading by example in that. And so I reluctantly, I'm not sure that I'm going to support this motion of their withdrawal of the charge. I'm going to say, can we do some more work on finding out what is going on here? And then, if we find that it is producing the effects that I and Councillor Netson have talked about, and I think Councillor Dupre's proposal moves towards, then I think we do need to think again. But at the moment, because of all the hard work that officers are doing in trying to transform, I don't want to take away any opportunities that they have to provide additional revenue. I'd just like some more work done, and then I would feel absolutely able to support a suggestion that we remove the charge.
Councillor Howe.
Yes, unlike my colleague to the left, or maybe to the extreme right, I do believe in libraries. I do believe in libraries. I think libraries are fantastic. They're excellent. The libraries that I go to seem to be abundant with young children running around and youths and mischief makers. I think is the big thing at the moment in the libraries, which is great. It's fantastic. And so, no, I'm a big fan of libraries, but we already charge. I mean, we used to charge years ago for the books if they're late. I don't know if you still, that's something we do. Libraries charge, and now we've gone into the internet. I mean, there's places out there, the old internet cafes, they charge for the use of them. So it's a natural thing. Under 18s get it free. First 30 minutes is free if somebody wants to do it, and it's £1 an hour, which I think is very, very reasonable. And taking on board what has been said, where if somebody's doing something particularly good with regards to their work or CV, then I think a certain amount of flexibility is allowed there, and we all accept that. So no, I won't be able to support the policy, but I think libraries are fantastic places.
Councillor Samson.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm just looking forward to the Simon King Memorial Library. Maybe not memorial, sorry. I propose that we name the new library after Councillor King. I think the thing that concerns me about this at 3.8 is that if you look at the computer use for 30 minutes or above, when the fee is applied, that's dropped dramatically. I think it's dropped by more than we anticipated. So it's clearly having a big effect. But I don't agree that most library users are sort of middle class. Is it? You say middle class? Middle-aged and middle class.
Well, elderly actually.
I mean, most of the users I see, and I can include myself in that, are reasonably young, working class people, and they are protected under this scheme. But I think we did say we would examine this again at our September meeting, which we're doing today, and it's clearly not had the desired effect. And I would agree with Councillor Dupre's motion. I think we should scrap the charge now.
Well, I love the libraries. I've got two little grandchildren, and I actually thought they might be starring in the video, but and I know what a very important part of their lives the hub is, an interaction between mothers, and the whole thing is just good news. And I think it's entirely right that we're using this expansion of the hub. So really, in a way, we're almost talking about sort of the county council's embassies throughout the county, and where everything is focused. So I'm totally supportive of libraries, even though I share a similar age to Councillor King. But also, I think we've the computer use, we've got to be very careful we don't just block it up with people who are going to watch films all day and just use it as part of their, and I think nobody is paying for postal stamps or telephone charges, and I think to sort of, I think pushing the library into a sort of communication hub for people as their private lives to use as communication, I think is a step too far, and I think we should use or make the computers available for people who are doing things like furthering their career, getting on training courses, furthering their education, and they shouldn't be blocked up by people who are busy using it as part of their social lives. And I think it's, by giving as we've already said today, giving extra supporting the flexibility of the staff who are there, I think we're making it available to those who need it, and the right people are using it. So I will not be supporting Councillor Dupre's move, and the next one is Councillor Carpen.
Oh yeah, no, I fully support the proposal of Councillor Dupre. It is, financially, it doesn't seem to be worth a candle by refusing access to the computers to people. It's good that there are the exemptions, for the under 18s and the unemployed, but we've got to bear in mind that there are a huge number of our population who are on very low wages and so on. And as you know, there are people who are working part-time and so on, and they still don't get enough money to live on. They have to go to food banks and so on. So it's something well known nationally, never mind locally. And having access to computers is going to be something that will support people like that who would be wanting to sort of increase their training opportunities and so on. I totally disagree with your observation of the demographic in the libraries. I visit not just the Central Library in Cambridge and some of the local libraries in Cambridge, like Rock Road, but I've also been up to Ely Library, March Library and so on. And they are actually places that are thriving. I mean, it's, I think it's one of the things that's happened at libraries. They have evolved to survive, and they've actually, since the time I used to use libraries in my youth to educate myself and parallel to going to school, they're greatly enhanced places, and I'm very pleased to hear all the activities that the staff are doing to sort of keep up with the times. So I think it's now just the time, I think, to make a decision to drop these charges. Yes, there will be people in there who are amusing themselves, but so what? I mean, they're not going to dominate the computers. As I say, we mustn't be excluding those who haven't got access to computers. And I was just, anecdotally, I was just looking at our bills the other day as a kind of sort of pensioner. I was, doing the budget, and I was just looking at how much the computer company charge us. It's just horrendous, And I was saying to my wife, I think she'd go back to, just having four channels and a landline. Because it is hugely expensive to run a computer at home. So let's have it free access in our libraries, which are still the thriving entities at the centre of our communities.
Thank you. I think that the argument for keeping the charge when it's raising so little money is tiny. It's bringing in a minute amount of money to the council. The implication that the people who are using the computer for 30 minutes and then stopping because of a £1 charge is that for those people a £1 charge is a significant barrier. And those are surely the people who we most want to be encouraging to use our libraries and making access to the internet as easy and positive as possible. Councillor Hunt has talked about that they're just using it for their social lives. Well, actually, for people for whom the £1 charge is a significant barrier, anything that supports their social lives is enormously important, because it's very, very difficult to, if you're on a very low income, to have an interesting and exciting social life. And if we can support that and encourage those people to be becoming more and more internet savvy and able to keep in touch with their families and friends via the internet in the libraries and therefore come into libraries, that's very positive. I think that's absolutely what we as a council ought to be doing. We all know that social isolation is a huge predictor of the need for social care and for for health problems, all of which tend to make people much more expensive residents of this county than is any money that is being brought in by the library charges. I think anything that we can do to encourage people to have social contact, to come into social networks, we should be encouraging them to do, and it does seem as if this charge is absolutely discouraging them. So I think it's I think we will end up back in the same place that we did with the Carpen charges. Actually, we find that the charge discourages a group of people from doing something that we absolutely want them to be doing, and it doesn't. And bringing in the charge doesn't bring in any income for the council. It just stops people from doing the thing that we want them to do. In this case, using the libraries, and in that case, using the Carpen lines, and it's unhelpful, and we should stop it immediately. So I'm sorry, the members opposite are unlikely to...
Councillor King, you've got another bite of the cherry.
Well, thank you, Chair. I just wondered if it would be appropriate to propose an amendment or an alternative to the proposition, because I think one of the concerns perhaps we all have on this side is that this is a little premature to drop the charges at this point, because it's very early days. And so I suppose that what I'm thinking is, would it be appropriate to request a further report in about 6 months' time, and perhaps looking at those areas that Councillor Harper particularly flagged up about the usage and the vacancy rate of the computers, so that we have a bit more information about the impact of this charge actually upon individuals and upon the use of the computers. And then I think we'll be in a position to make a more informed decision. I think that, you know, it's not necessarily my own personal view, but I think that's the view of most of us on this side. So if it's appropriate with you, Mr. Chair, I'd be very happy to make that proposition.
I mean, I think it was always the intention to continue to monitor this anyway. Personally, I agree with Councillor Harford. I think that you know, there are some concerns on this. However, I mean, my biggest concern is it hasn't raised anything like the amount of money that was originally predicted, and I think that is clearly a concern. However, I think reading through the figures, anecdotally it seems it may have had the effect that we expected it to have, but without the income. So there are some problems with that. I agree it's far too soon to drop the charge altogether, and we've invested in the equipment to enable us to charge as well, so not that that's a reason not to do it, but that's certainly something that should be taken into account. So I would agree, I would not support the motion as put at the moment. However, to bring it back to this committee in 6 months' time for a further look with a little bit more analysis, I think would be a perfectly sensible suggestion. But I think out of courtesy to those who support the motion, we should probably initially vote on that motion and then, you know, be perfectly entitled to put your motion forward as an alternative. So I think that would be fine. And you know, I think it's unfortunate that your views on libraries, but clearly in Oxford education. If you'd been to Cambridge, maybe you'd have thought differently. Or having no education at all, like me. You know, maybe my enthusiasm for libraries is because of that. But I think we should do the courtesy of taking a vote on that motion first, and then we can put your motion if you have support.
It may be that we should draw a line, but I have councillors Sanderson and Dupre registered to speak. So
do you want to speak on that idea, or do you want to speak again on the...
Just very briefly again, just to say that we don't charge people to access Wi-Fi at the libraries. So if you have your own tablet, your iPhone, you can go to the library and effectively use that for free. And obviously if you want to use a library computer, you're being charged for that. It seems as if perhaps we're targeting the wrong people. I mean, I have an iPad, and occasionally I will go into the library and watch videos on YouTube, sensible videos of course. Occasionally I would use it for social purposes. So I think we're perhaps penalising the wrong sort of people. Maybe we need to rethink that part as well.
Well, there are Wi-Fi hotspots now all over the space, so it's not just libraries. I mean, they come up virtually with a phone going all the time. Councillor Bray?
I was going to speak on whatever comes from the other side.
Let's put your motion first, and we'll vote on that, and then we'll look at the alternatives. So, all those in favour of Councillor Bray's motion to remove book charges straight away, please indicate. And all those against? And any abstentions? So that motion is lost. And Councillor King, do you have a seconder for your idea to bring it back in 6 months' time? Councillor Harford? So the motion would be...
It's not just to bring it back in 6 months' time, Mr. Chairman.
With more analysis.
With more analysis, and particularly looking at the things that Councillor Harford and was concerned about.
Can we think of a particular committee that will come to it in sort of February, March, something like that? March. Okay, so the March committee with more detail, more analysis of that specific thing. All in favour?
So, Chairman, I thought you were going to have a discussion about that.
Well, we can have a discussion, yes.
Because I had said that I wished to...
No, it's fine, sorry.
I don't think I can support that, not because I don't want us to review, in fact I'm wanting us to review it now and change our minds, but I'm struggling to see what difference 6 months is going to make to this situation. You can have more information about exactly who might or might not be using the computers for whatever purposes, and whether it's Facebook or Twitter or Inglorious Bastards or whatever it is they're doing on the computer, or Angry Birds or whatever. I'm not sure that that's actually going to solve the situation, because the situation you've got is quite simply that you had expected to raise £108,000 through charging for computers in libraries, and you're only going to raise 16 by the year end. Now, either you end up downgrading your expectations, in which case you've got to find that money from somewhere else, or you have to just say, well, is this worth it? And is anything going to change to those figures? Are you going to have, is an alternative to just police it more aggressively, or to quintuple the charge to £5 an hour in order to get that income? What are you going to do that is substantially going to change the situation that we are in? And what is it? What information are you going to get that is going to make you, in an informed way, more comfortable about the impact of the decisions you've made? Will you feel better informed knowing what proportion of people came in to use Instagram as opposed to the proportion of people that came in to play Angry Birds? What is it that's going to either make you so much better informed about what's going on that you can feel you can come to this with totally fresh eyes? What is it that's going to happen that's going to make you say, actually, we can raise that extra £102,000 out of this? I'm struggling to see what is going to change in the next 6 months that will either raise all that revenue or make you so better informed that you will eventually come around to our way of thinking, which is obviously the informed position to take.
I think we have a difference of opinion. That is the reason why we need to look at it longer. I think the raising of the revenue is one issue, and the usage of those computers, and the original intention to have wider usage of those computers by people who really need to use those computers is another factor. Now, it may be, and I'm not suggesting that my side will vote one way or the other, but it may be that we feel that actually the effect it's had has been what we intended. However, the fact it hasn't raised money has been another effect. So therefore there are different things. So I think to have more time to look at it, more time to analyse just what's happening, more time to understand just what those computers are now being used for, and whether that's what we want them to be used for, will be a sensible thing. So I'm sure others will wish to comment, but I mean that would be my take on it.
Chairman, I'm sorry, there was one thing I meant to say, and it's reinforced by what...
Sorry, is this another question?
There is a strand around this discussion that says libraries are for utilitarian purposes. They are to help people get jobs. In that case, and if you're worried about the cost of the budget for libraries, why aren't you ceasing to buy all the books by Cecilia Ahern, all the chick lit, all the stuff like that, and just put in loads and loads of copies of Computers for Dummies and How to Get a Job? They aren't utilitarian places only, and the benefits in terms of older people making contact with people, going out, being able to use computers to maybe communicate with their children in far-flung places all around the world. The unknown benefits, unknown at the time, but clearly defined, of encouraging children into reading. I take issue totally with the idea that these are for rich old people. I want to just say briefly that my mum raised 4 children. I was the oldest of 4, and she had a lot on her plate. She didn't have a car, she had a job, but she made sure we went to the library and we got our library books, we changed our library books, and we read intensively. I grew up in a council flat. All 4 of us ended up going to university in our different ways, pursuing different courses of study. And libraries were a vital part of that, and they still are for many people who can't afford to buy their children huge quantities of books, computers, who are operating in cramped accommodation, all of those things. Libraries are an absolute lifeline. We saw that the film started with the babies, with the mums and toddlers. That's brilliant. I want to see that continue, that they aren't just a playground for old people with money. They are vital community assets for young children, families and older people alike, for all sorts of reasons, not just going out and getting a job.
Well, there's clearly a difference of opinion between cause and effect. So, who
Councillor.
Thank you. I just want to make it clear that I would support a proposal to bring it back again in 6 months, not because I want to see any analysis of exactly what was being done on computers that now isn't being done, but my concern is to find out about where these displaced users have gone and what's happening to them. And that's going to be a much harder task, I appreciate that, but that is my concern. It is, I do want to support officers in giving them the opportunity to prove that there is justification for a charge, but my concerns are about the social impacts. I'm not quite sure how we're going to look at that, but I do think that is the important thing. And I think that because our library staff are so much a part of the community, that they will know who the people are who are no longer using it. And it may be that there is a way of finding out you know, how much impact that's having on those people. I'm sorry to set quite a difficult task, but that is my real concern.
Thank you. Any further? No? Councillor.
I just want to say very quickly, Mr. Chairman, I think we need to remember that when we approved these charges, it wasn't just a money-raising exercise. It was also to free up computer space, because, you know, we were told that a substantial number of people were spending all day on the computer and not letting other people have a crack at it. So we did have those 2 aims.
Yeah.
And I suspect that we have achieved one of those aims. It's a shame we haven't generated more revenue, because heaven knows we need it. But, you know, 1 out of 2 ain't bad.
Thank you. That's absolutely correct. And I think officers have clearly got the message over this that we do have concerns. We all have concerns over this. We're probably coming at it from different angles, but I don't think that's a bad thing at all. So we'll come back in 6 months' time with some more analysis, with some more evidence, and you know, we can then you know, look at it again. So all those in favour of the motion to bring it back in 6 months' time, please show. All those against? And anybody abstaining? Okay, thank you, that's carried.